All right, hi everyone. My name's John Coughlin. I'm on the community relations team at GitLab, and I'm really excited to be with you all today for our first Global Community Day meetup. This is a new thing that we're trying. We're doing 3 meetups to allow everybody across all time zones to participate in a meetup event on the same day with a focus on the same topic. And today we'll be focusing on continuous integration. I always like to start our meetups by reminding folks about our code of conduct. At GitLab, one of our values is diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and we like that to extend to our community. And so in order to ensure that the community is welcoming and inclusive, we ask everyone to abide by our code of conduct, which I'm sharing in the Zoom chat right now. So please take a look at that, and follow the kind of guidelines laid out there. If folks want to report any type of abusive behavior or code of conduct violations, you can send me a DM in the Zoom chat, or you can email conduct@gitlab.com. I will put that in the Zoom chat as well, and we'll work with you to resolve any of your concerns. So with that, I'm just going to get into a quick overview of GitLab, as we may have some folks that are new to our community here. GitLab's a complete DevOps toolchain delivered as a single application. There's one interface, one conversation, one permission model, and we have thousands of features. We release new features every month on the 22nd. So there's always something new and interesting to kind of play with in GitLab, and we're continuously improving the existing features as well. And I think, if you take a deep dive into what GitLab has to offer, you'd be pretty amazed by what we can do. GitLab's an open core company, so we have an open source version that everyone can contribute to, and there's many people on this call that I recognize from our community who have contributed to GitLab, so thank you for those contributions. And if you're interested in getting started, any type of contribution helps. So whether it's a documentation update, a translation, or a code contribution, or even organizing a meetup, doing a tech talk, writing a blog post, we appreciate all contributions from folks in our community. Some other cool things about GitLab: pre-COVID, we were one of the largest all remote companies in the world. I think there's probably other companies that have been forced into becoming all remote that may be bigger, but all remote's been part of our company DNA since the beginning, and our kind of leadership on that topic is something we're really proud of. And we have a ton of resources in our handbook if you want to learn more about how we make remote work for us. And that brings me to my next point, which is another interesting thing about GitLab is our transparency. Everything at GitLab that we can keep open, we do. So our roadmaps, our strategy, our handbook, which includes everything around how we run our business, are all publicly available. And so if you're interested in learning more about GitLab and how we run our business, I'd encourage you to check that out. You can just Google GitLab handbook and find lots of information there. For today, we're going to have a presentation and kind of demo from Michael Friedrich, who's one of the developer evangelists at GitLab. He's going to walk us through GitLab CI. And then if there's time left at the end, we'll do breakout groups. If not, we'll just do Q&A as one big group. And just a couple small requests for me before we get started. As I mentioned earlier, please keep your cameras on as long as you're comfortable being recorded, because we will publish this to YouTube. Please stay muted unless you're kind of unmuting to ask a question. It can be distracting for the presenter to hear kind of background noise. I'd love for everyone to share where they're joining from in the Zoom chat. This is a global event, and so it's always interesting to see where folks are kind of joining us from. And lastly, close your tabs, mute Slack, and just try and relax and enjoy the presentation from Michael. And one more thing, there's a hashtag if you want to tweet about this. It's hashtag GitLab Community Day. I will put that in the chat as well. So if you're taking screenshots or you want to comment on the meetup on social media, please use that hashtag so we can help amplify your messages. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michael.
Thanks. Officially, I have 30 minutes, but I'm known to be too extended, maybe. But yeah, I want to dive into best practices with GitLab CI/CD. I've shared the slides in the Zoom chat, so you can follow along. And when we jump into the exercises later on, you can also do it either in the session or do it asynchronously. Today it's me. we are on the team, so you know John already. Brandon, I've seen, is also on the call, and Abu Bakr, who's also on our developer evangelists team. For the agenda today, first off, I want to start with a short introduction. What is CI/CD? Then we dive a little bit into the first steps with practical exercises. Later on, checking out the Go project, and doing checking out some CI security practices. Then there are some self-practice exercises and a short look at what's next, and then we can kind of start the conversation or discussion. Yeah, for the preparation, if you want to take part during exercises, you need an account for GitLab.com. You can fork the project, which is linked in the slides. Everything has been prepared inside. So if you say, hey, I want to just listen to Michael because Michael is talking too fast, you can also do it later on, but you can also try it live now during the exercise. I also want to encourage you to use the slides and also the code examples for your own workshops, for your own meetups. Share it with your friends, your team, just to spread the word and make it a fun exercise to learn GitLab CI/CD. Okay, then let's dive a little bit into an introduction and hear a little bit about the key concepts of CI/CD. So you need to know what is a job, where you want to execute something. You have a pipeline, which is kind of a set of stages. You might hear about environments and environment variables, which can be used for parameterizing jobs, for example. You want to hear or you want to remember job artifacts as outputs. And oftentimes we reference GitLab Runner, which is a job executor. That being said, it's written in Go, can be run anywhere, so you can start it on your macOS notebook. For example, you can run it on Windows, you can run it on Linux, even Unix. You can also run it in Kubernetes, and for example, for autoscaling in AWS, you could also use Docker Mission. And it actually connects to a GitLab server and can be attached to groups, to single projects, to the global instance, and the like. Coming from the GitLab Runner to the pipelines, this is a basic example how a pipeline could look like. You start your code, you commit something, you run the unit tests in your CI pipeline, you run integration tests, and later on you deploy it into a staging environment, you do some reviews until it lands in production, either automatically or you need to do a manual step beforehand. A little bit more broken down into how this could look like with more details. It's basically the workflow. You start with a merge request, you commit, you finish the features, you run unit tests, you see the results immediately, you get fast feedback, you can fix problems fast, and you don't have to fix the bug when it's in production. Because oftentimes our development cycles require us to ship fast, because otherwise a competitor would probably copy the idea or want to just see something going on, like TikTok started out somehow. And it might not be perfect, but still you want to ship fast. And there are some processes and toolings involved inside the CI/CD workflow, which can help you achieve that. We will jump into the continuous integration part today a little more, but still there's lots of things to explore. When we go into pipelines, as I said before, we do have jobs and stages. So we can have a simple pipeline, which we will try out in a few minutes, where we want to just build the code, we want to test the code, we want to deploy the code, build packages, and deploy it to production, for instance. But we also have we have more advanced possibilities where we can say, hey, I want to maybe run jobs asynchronously because there could be some blocking mechanisms inside. I can run pipelines over multiple projects. I can run a parent pipeline, which triggers a child pipeline asynchronously, and even more than that. There is also a mention of merge range. This is also an advanced example. It's just here that you have heard some of the things, but today we also want to look into what's possible, but start with the small things. One of the things which also came in recently is also visualization layer, where we also are iterating on and improving the general pipeline view. This one is especially interesting because you can figure out the critical path. So how long does my CI pipeline take to complete, and maybe figure out where you can improve the pipeline efficiency and saving cloud resources and costs in the long run. So for example, if a pipeline run takes 7 minutes, you might kind of want to investigate and optimize and refactor the pipelines later on. For the configuration, you have probably heard about the YAML configuration format in the .gitlab-ci.yaml. There are several templates around making your lives easier. We will try that later on in the Go project. And we also do have Auto DevOps, which is an opinionated collection of CI/CD templates. It automatically detects dependencies, builds a container image, deploys that into Kubernetes and AWS, and can make your life easier. Other than that, if you say, hey, I want to dive a little more deep from CI/CD to security, our security tests also run in CI/CD pipelines, and you can, for example, detect secrets, you can detect static security problems, automated dynamic application security testing, so meaning to say you run a REST API and you simulate some security problems. Lately, there was fast testing being added. Yeah, and there's so much more. I think, yeah, chaos engineering is not on the plate, but this is definitely something to look out for next year. But anyhow, this is lots of theory. Let's dive a little bit into the first steps with CI/CD. So just to remember, we kind of want to work onto something. We're saying now I have assigned a task to myself. I want to create a merge request. I want to do something. And one of the first things is we want to add a new CI/CD job, and we will just do it in a second. One of the things we will be doing is we will be using the web IDE, so there's no terminal involved right now. We're just doing everything in the browser. We will be creating a GitLab CI configuration file, and one of the things we want to do is we want to run a job called test_simple, which executes a script, which is exit1, and the image is Alpine because this is the smallest one you can actually use. If you have forked the repository already, you can just jump in right here. The web IDE can be accessed from this shiny button over here. And then I'm saying I want to add a new file, which is in the menu, and I don't need to type it. It's already, I can select it and then say, hey, I want to say it's image and it's Alpine, and the colon means that we're using the latest tag. And let me just check what it's test_simple. This is the job definition and the job name. This can be freely defined. We want to execute a script, and this needs a dash, and then we just say we want to execute exit1. Then I say I want to commit it. The branch name should be CI-test, so we don't commit anything to the main branch now. And we say we want to add a CI config. And let's just start a new merge request. And I can assign it to me. And then we're just waiting for the pipeline to kick off, to start, hopefully fast enough. Typically when doing a demo, this is the loading thing. Oh, yeah, and it was finished. The thing is, now it's broken. And one of the reasons, or maybe you can guess it already, why it's broken, but I want to just go in there and check it. And I'm navigating into the jobs output, and I can see what's going on. So actually, the GitLab runner fetches the job. It's executing a Docker image, starting the Docker image. So it's my sandbox environment where I can run the tests, and it will be the same every time it gets executed. Then it does some preparations, clones the Git repository, and then it executes exit1. And exit1 is actually an error code. Everything you execute and the last exit status from the last call will be used as the job error code or job status code. So in order to kind of say, hey, I want to fix this now, let's just navigate back into our merge request, which can be accessed over here, for example. And we can also edit a merge request inside the web IDE. And seeing here, this is the diff view, but I could also just say, hey, I'm stepping back over here and making this a 0. 0 means no error occurred in a Linux terminal or Unix terminal. And we commit the change into the same branch and say, hey, we fixed the CI test. So let's see. A telling error message, telling commit message is gold if you're looking into it after half a year or something like that. The cool thing now is within the web IDE, I can see at the bottom that the pipeline is running. So this is like the same as you get within with the Visual Studio Code GitLab workflow extension, or you could also click here on the rocket icon to see what the pipeline status is, meaning to say you don't need to leave the context now, you don't need to switch context and maybe get distracted and then coming back again. So the thing is now this pipeline succeeded, exit 0, and everything is fine. That's the first test. One of the things you can also do, and this is one of the exercises I would leave to you now, you can also define variables which are then exposed into the runner environment as an environment variable, for example, the build type, and you can specify be it release, debug, and everything else. And accessing it is just like you would access if the job gets executed on Linux or Unix, just like you would access a variable in the shell syntax. I think for Windows you need to use the percentage sign. Or is it .env, something around that. So in this regard, we can just reuse the variables and instrument how the job behaves from the outside. This is really helpful, especially if you, for example, have different types of builds like release, debug, or different architectures you want to just instrument from a single job. When we dive a little deeper into a Go project, so we kind of say, hey, we have some code now, and we inherited this from a former colleague, or we just want to start maintaining it and probably have migrated it from SVN or something else other than Git, and the code doesn't have any tests. So one thing is the repository provides us with some Go code, and this typically looks like this. We have the main.go, it executes something, says hello, but we're not sure if this will be working and how things are going. So the first iteration or the first step is we want to know whether it builds or not. And the thing is, well, how to start with that. The good thing is, we're lucky to have CI/CD pipelines and templates in that regard. So it's possible that we navigate into our repository now and use the web IDE again. And we want to edit, or or we want to create a new GitLab CI YAML file. And right now we're hopping over here into the templates, and a little bit down below, there should be the Go template, which we can reuse again. One thing we need to edit here is we need to add the path for the project, especially because this will be used for symlinking. I think this should work without, but let's just do it. The most important part is to leave out the HTTPS because Golang doesn't like this. And did I miss something? Yeah, this did miss something. We also want to call our my binary just Tanuki, and this should be over here as well. So I will just reuse that and then explain it while it's running. So let's just say we want to create a CI Go branch, add CI config for Go project, commit message, start a new merge request, and while it's running, we will also be able to inspect it. So in that regard, it prepares the Go environment. This is basically some symlink magic. The most important parts are happening down below. So we're defining stages. In the test stage, the format job is running, which basically does some formatting for Go and detects whether the syntax is correct, and also executes unit tests, which might have been defined already. The compile stage actually builds the binary, and within the dash.o flag, you get the Tanuki binary, which then gets attached to the job artifacts. So you can actually download the binary and test it, do something with it, pass it along, and things like that. Whenever the artifact is available, you can also, for example, interact with it using the REST API, trigger some child pipelines, or do whatever you want. The thing is now I'm interested in did the job work, or is the code building? For some reason, the pipeline status is red. This is not good. Let's just see how things are going. The test job or the test stage with the format job failed. And as you can see, when the first job failed, the second job doesn't execute. Let's just check in there and say, hey, what's going on? I want to know it. Everything which is green is not interested currently. But there we see it. We have an undeclared name OS. So probably in main.go in line 12 and character 16, there's something going on. I think I'm about to open a feature request. Just click on that. But yeah, if we navigate back into our merge request now, and I'm opening up the web ID again. Let's just check the main.go. We have line 12. Here it's using os.getenv, which is reading an environment variable. And we probably should just import OS, and later on we're also using FMT. So I've prepared it over here already. We just need to import FMT and OS. So just removing these commented out functionalities. And then we can say, okay, fix the build. Oh no, that's not a good commit message. Fix missing imports for OS FMT functions. Let's commit this. And we can see that the pipeline started and it is running. Let's just inspect the code, what it is doing. Oh, I'm not running out of time today. That's good. So Yeah, as a bonus, you could also, for example, define a variable which is called hello from, and override what the script is expecting and just print your own message. But for now, we want to just hopefully see something. And at this point, we're using the GitLab.com shared runners fleet now, which is using the same pool for everyone. If you have heavy builds or heavy jobs where you rely upon, I would totally recommend to use your own runners, assign resources for it. And if you're, for example, using a self-hosted environment, you could also go the way and say, hey, this specific runner is assigned to a group which compiles a C++ code or Rust code, because this can like take a lot of resources. And the other runner, which has not so many resources, just runs some JavaScript or some Node.js test or something else, which doesn't need heavy resources for compiling. Okay, the job continued. Actually, we're interested in the entire pipeline, just because we have the format job and it's actually building something for us. And in the moment I clicked on it, it already succeeded. So this is wonderful. We would now have, for example, the Tanuki binary over here. This has been compiled on Linux. If I download it on my macOS, it wouldn't work. But still, I could also create a cross-compiling job, which would allow me that with Golang. Anyhow, let's look into the next exercise. We want to run the application. So we want to actually make sure that this is being deployable, or this works in the way we kind of expected, because it could also like introduce a crash or seg fault or something else. And we want to just ensure that this is working in our environment. Therefore, we open up the merge request again, navigate into the web IDE if you haven't done so. You can also switch branches and merge requests within the web IDE. And one thing we want to do is we want to edit the GitLab CI YAML and add a new job at the bottom and call it run, I think. Let me just check. Yeah, we want to add it to the deploy stage. Oops. And we also execute the script. And this is a dash./Tanuki. We want to execute the Tanuki binary. We just want to see what's printed on stdout and even started. This is the same as when you're running any type of CLI command, just to see how things are going. We commit this. Add run job for Tanuki. Execution sounds strange. And we're committing this, and again waiting for the CI/CD builds to continue. And we can see on the right-hand side there is a new deploy stage and a job. It again starts the entire pipeline because it depends on each other, and we can then see that everything should be working. Let me just click on this, having a little bit more, a nicer view on that. While this is running, there are other things which are interesting. For example, Golang provides integrated unit tests, and you can pass the output of these unit tests within GitLab. So this kind of uses an expression or a regular expression to pass the standard output of the shell, and visualize that in your merge requests later on. This can be done, for example, with adding a unit test stage, running a specific script then with go test-cover, and have that visualized inside the merge request. Other things which are possible, like when you're not talking about Golang, JUnit is like a standard format which requires you to generate some XML report format. It can then pass that and integrate that within the merge request view, and you get a nice overview which jobs have executed specific tests and even more. So this is a nice way to integrate that. Still talking, and we want to see whether it's actually being running. So yeah, in this case, it's running, it's saying hello. And we have the Tanuki summon, and hopefully everyone else has. If you do have, please take a screenshot, share it on Twitter with our hashtag GitLab Community Day. I would love to retweet and like it, of course. And for the unit tests, please do that as a self-practice, because I want to dive into CI security. I have 3 minutes left. One thing about CI/CD or CI security is it's not only about unit tests and testing your code and building your code and running your code. You also want to make sure that no one accidentally pushes any secrets or credentials. Oftentimes it could be your .env environment which has been added to the Git repository, or there's a certain AWS key hard-coded in your test scripts, or maybe even hard-coded somewhere else in the source code. And oftentimes it's really hard to detect it because you don't know the regular expression or the terminology of specific keywords. And there are certain mechanisms available, so-called security scanners or secret scanners, which know about these. They are all open source, and GitLab integrates them into the CI/CD pipeline. And one of the things we can do is, it's super easy. You don't need to write your own job. You can just include a template, which is also like hidden in the auto DevOps templates, just for secret detection. And if we navigate back into our CI/CD configuration, which is over here, we can also just say, hey, we want to include this template. Oops. Oh, okay, I need to type it. No copy paste for me. We want to include, or maybe, yeah, I have prepared an entire complete solution, and this is where you can kind of verify if everything worked out for you. Just this is kind of the God cheat if you want to master everything. We can just include the security template. Just need to context. And we say, let's put it over here. We want to include the secret detection template. I could just open the documentation and copy it from there. And I also have the possibility to parameterize the job. So if you, for example, want to download the report as a JSON file, you can also just do that. Just copy it and add it over here. This is also helpful for debugging. So if you're not sure what's going on, you could also inspect this and download the artifacts then. And one of the things I did, no, it's not missing anything. Add CI secrets scanning. And probably it should tell us something. Including this. And now we can see we inherited a secrets detection job, which is running in the same stage as the test, as the format job. And the secret detection job did something for us. It found something. One of the things you can do, especially because the merge request integration is included in the Enterprise Edition, you can still download the artifact and browse it and just see whether something happened inside. So this provides me with a JSON representation. If I want to check it out in a way of going back into my merge request, which should be over here, it's still running, but the security scanning will be embedded in here if you do have a gold plan, for instance. But still, could also like say, hey, want to pass this, and I've added an AWS key by accident. By accident, yeah. No, and the idea is that when the pipeline succeeds, you get a visualization that something critically happens, or you would be adding something and you shouldn't do it. You can also define rules to prevent the merge now. This actually just tells me, yeah, you have been adding something or it already exists, and this AWS key needs to be revoked, and you need to do some rollbacks. You could also like create a confidential issue out of that, or even say, I want to dismiss this vulnerability, but I wouldn't recommend to do it. Another way of like looking into this is to test your code for static vulnerabilities, which could be something like you do a chmod 777 for something, like having a word readable and writable file, and reading from that could also lead into unwanted behavior, or maybe even privacy leaks, security problems, and the like. So this one is, just check. We do have the SAST template to include, for example, and I'm just being lazy and doing copy paste. And we could also just use this is this one, the SAST job, override something, add some debug traces, and more. Not super fast with that. That's the first time I'm doing this in the workshop, but still, it worked before. We have the SAST job, we want to include it, and we want to see whether the code has some security vulnerabilities or not. Add SAST configuration, and we commit it again. The pipeline is running, and we can see that the template automatically detected that we have a Golang code. It's running a GoSec SAST job now. This inspects our code for vulnerabilities. I think this works offline in a DM set as well. But yeah, it's actually using a specific Docker image in that regard. Does some checks, uploads it again, provides us with a report because we said we want to have one. In this regard, I'm hitting something special. Okay, but let's just look what the job actually, or the pipeline is doing. Still running. And the security scanning is loading. Let's just check over here. We detected some 777 code, okay. And it also lists, for example, if it detects a CVE or something around this with all the details. Oftentimes there is also a suggestion how to fix it, because humans will make errors. Takes a bit. to load. It's a demo effect again. We have anything else? I just actually did this one and this one. And over here it's described how to add a manual JSON report if you just want to inspect that. Pressing F5. Okay, continued. And now we have 4 potential vulnerabilities. One of them is, or 2 of them are medium, which means unsafe method close on type. Okay, something I did by accident. I didn't really plan with that vulnerability. The nice thing is I just can click over here and I'm opening I can see directly in the line where the problem is going on. It's unsafe. Oh yeah, I didn't check whether this creates something useful. So I'm not checking the error code in that regard. Yeah, probably shouldn't do that. The other thing which is medium is that the file permission should not be 777. This was also done. This was something I planned. Yeah, so this is also something where it detects it and tells you whether you want to have a look at it. Okay, there is way more than that. So you can use different CI/CD security scanning mechanisms. I would also recommend checking out the fuzz testing. I find it fascinating to kind of imagine what's going on and battle test your application. But yeah, anyhow, the thing is self-practice. This is your kind of home exercise. You can test drive the JUnit integration, which also has been prepared in the GitLab CI.oil.yaml file. You can add more unit tests, which have been commented out in there. You can inspect, or you can see that the test coverage drops or increases. And yeah, add your own function tests into the test framework with Go. If you haven't done it before or just want to learn Go. And last but not least, I would recommend to add some test and coverage pipeline status batches. So you don't need to edit the README like you know probably from other Git vendors. You can just edit the project settings and have that available natively inside your GitLab project. Other than that, what's next? Lots of things, because CI/CD is not, we didn't touch many things today, but I would totally recommend to check out environments combined with review apps, making your life easier. Check out how GitOps with Kubernetes, Terraform, and Ansible works. Check out the pipeline efficiency documentation. This is something where I contributed a lot to. It's relatively new in the documentation, and we also want to make your life easier with application performance metrics, dashboards, monitoring, yeah, and security. And last but not least, also ensure that your credentials are safe at runtime and include Vault or into that. With that, CI/CD, seeing is believing. I hope to see you in our future meetups or online. Check out the training resources linked, and if there are any, hopefully there are many questions now, please shoot. Happy to help. And if not today, just ping me on Twitter or ping us on Twitter, and we're happy to help. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Really informative session, and I'm not sure if you were aware, but the chat was popping off, lots of questions throughout, and thanks to everyone who was asking questions, and thank you to the folks who were responding to those questions. Great to see that community interaction. Does anyone have any questions for Michael that they'd like to ask? And you can do that by unmuting and asking the question verbally, or you can put it in the chat and I can read the question for you. So if anyone has questions for Michael that haven't been addressed in the chat by some other folks, please add them now. All right, Michael, there's a question there in the chat from Sandrine. Nice appetizer. When will you present the next steps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say we can totally do a follow-up next year, maybe looking into the CI, the CD parts, because right now we're talking mostly about CI. I would love to like dive into things like Kubernetes or monitoring or even more. I would say it's hard. Pick a topic, make a wish list, find people of interest, or like find a common topic. We also, or I'm also hosting a coffee chat round, which is called Everyone Can Contribute Cafe or Coffee. This is an English version. We also have a German version. This is one of the things where we just want to try things out. So lately we tried out Grafana Tempo, specific things with Captain for CD. So if you have an interesting topic, just reach out. If you just say, hey, I want to learn about CD and everything else, which is GitLab, we can totally make that happen. We just need a pointer from you what topic is next. Maybe learning Rust or something like that.
And Michael, what's the best way for folks to contact you if they have a topic, or even if they'd like to, be involved in one of the conversations? I know you have a project for your coffee chat groups, but is that the best way for people to get in touch, or is it through Twitter? How do you recommend people reach out?
So I'm super fast on Twitter. Sometimes I'm taking time off because mental health is important, but if you want to reach out, my DMs are open on Twitter, but you can also like just tag me or add me on Twitter, and we can make things happen. Apart from that, we can also move into coffee chats and other things around. One thing I do recommend checking out is the website for the Everyone Can Contribute coffee chat, which is super simple. And if you want to have a laugh today, I also recommend checking out this demo website I created for my job application at GitLab 1 year ago. Just a note, it has sound, so don't feel disturbed now. Okay, Sandrine says, I look forward to more information on pipeline efficiency and deployment with Kubernetes. Yep, totally on my list, especially because you can learn so much and oftentimes it's overwhelming. So we need to find a good topic on that. Anything else? Or was I talking too fast?
I don't know if it was that you were talking too fast. I think it's just that so many of the questions were answered by other folks in the chat. I'm not sure how many unanswered questions we have left. Before we kind of wrap up, I'll just give folks a chance to verbalize any last questions. I think we'll skip the breakout groups since we only have about 10 minutes remaining. And by the time we shuffle everyone there and back, I don't think there'd be a whole lot of time for robust conversation. All right, so I just have a few remarks I'd like to share before we wrap things up and end the session. First of all, I want to thank Michael for a presentation. One thing we do at all of our virtual meetups is unmute and give a round of applause to our presenter. So if folks will join me by unmuting themselves and just giving Michael a round of applause. We can't all be together, but we can still show our appreciation. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, everyone who was here today. This was a great group. I love seeing the engagement in the chat. I love seeing so many faces with their cameras turned on. It really helps us feel like the community is still together, even when we can't be together in person. So thank you all for being here and being part of this. We couldn't do these meetups and community day events without you. If you're interested in more GitLab CI content, we have a couple of events coming up. We'll be doing an AMA with the GitLab CI team in 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from today on December 15th. and I'll share a link to that in the chat. Or you can visit the GitLab virtual meetups group where you registered for this event to find more information. And that's going to feature 4 members of the GitLab CI team doing an AMA, and they'll also be doing a sneak preview of the roadmap and the visual pipeline builder. So you'll get a look into kind of some of our plans for the future for CI, and it should be a pretty exciting event and pretty interesting as well. So I hope you'll join us there. There's also, through our GitLab Chicago group, another meetup next week with a focus on CI. And that's going to be, or I'm sorry, that's actually later this week. So that's on Thursday, December 3rd. And I'll put a link to that in the chat as well. So if you're looking for more GitLab CI content, I'd recommend registering for those meetups and participating in them. I think those will both be good events. Especially encourage you to join the AMA with our GitLab CI team. For folks that are wondering about the swag that was promised, we'll be sending out a follow-up form to everyone. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That's going to be sent via Meetup. So make sure you have notifications turned on for your Meetup account. And we'll be reaching out through the Meetup group to collect contact information so that we can send out some special kind of thank you to everyone for participating today. And then lastly, virtual meetups have really become part of our community over the last, I guess, 8 months. And we intend to keep them going for as long as we can't be together in person, and likely, even bringing the community together virtually after that. And so we'd love for you to remain involved, either, as an attendee or as a speaker, or, someone who proposes topics. So if you have a talk that you'd like to give, or a topic you'd like to talk about, or a topic you'd like to hear about, we love your feedback to kind of help us make sure that this group is representing the interests of the community. And you can reach out to us, evangelist@gitlab.com, and we can start a conversation on, having you come and speak to the group, or trying to find a speaker to address a topic that you're interested in. So please, feedback really is helpful to us, and we'd love to hear from you. And with that, I think we'll wrap things up for the day. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Michael. Great to see so many folks participating. And if you want to give Michael kudos, it's at DNS MICHI, and you can tweet with hashtag GitLab Community Day. And I hope to see you at a virtual meetup again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.